Welcome back to Canvas Conversations. Joining me on the show today is Jose Shorty Torres, but he's joined by his nutritionist, aka Loutrition. What's going on, guys? How are you guys doing?
Doing very, very well. Be better when he finally flies home. He's costing me too much money and stress and aggravation as always. So I'll be much better once he goes back home. Give me 1 second.
His grandfather's calling him, so he's taking care of his grandfather right now.
No problem.
Lou is fattening me up, so it's the opposite of the nutrition diet, which is awesome.
Got you. So how did you guys get together in the first place whenever you guys first met each other? How did that all come about?
You want to start?
No, you got it.
It's a great love story. His story is much different than mine, from what I believe. But I was looking for a nutritionist. I still haven't found one, but
True statement.
I was looking for a nutritionist, and we were both working with Brian Levick, King Lev Communications. Sadly, he passed away. But
Rest in peace, King Lev.
he was giving me all the interviews and was happy that him and I got along very well. And he asked me, he goes, "Hey, what do you need?" I go, "Well, I'm really struggling with my diet. I'm really looking for someone to help me." He goes, "Well, I have the perfect guy. I'll link you guys up. We'll talk." And I talked to him on the phone, and he ended up treating me like a side chick and then playing it as cool as possible. Like, yeah, whatever, whatever. So I was thinking nothing was going to happen. He's just going to send me a protocol, whatever. And I listened to it 100% to a T and got everything down packed. Won my pro debut at 135 and made 135 the easiest I've ever made it. Again, I was traumatized in college to make 125, so I just didn't want to do it. Did 35, did it the second time, just as easy. And, it came time to fight for the vacant belt at flyweight, and I wasn't comfortable with it if I didn't have this man. And so I go, you know what? I trust you now. Let's do it. And, because of him, I'm a flyweight. And because of him, I accepted this last fight for the UFC. And because of him, I'm in the UFC.
I definitely would like to take all the credit for sure. No, but he's right. He was my side chick for many years. As he said, Brian Levick was my PR rep. He started because the first guy I worked with was Eddie Truck Warden. And out of Long Island, and Brian knew Eddie. Long story short, he was just looking to lose a couple of pounds. I had no idea what Brian did. Didn't even know that he was involved in the MMA world. And I was helping him lose some weight. And one day he just asked me the same question, kind of like, "Hey man, I want to kind of repay you back for all the help you're doing." And I just did my first interview with, I think, Bloody Elbow at the time. And I was like, man, I had a blast doing my very first interview. I would love to do some more. And I was just saying it as like a general conversation. And he's like, that's what I do. And I was like, Brian, I don't actually know what you do. Know, who you are and health-wise, but I don't know what you do for work. And he goes, I'll get you as many interviews as you want. How many do you want? And I said, as many as you can. He literally hung up, called me back like 10 minutes later, and I had like 7 interviews scheduled. And during that time, that's when he introduced me to Shorty. He said, "I got this great kid. He couldn't talk any higher about somebody. Massive fan of his." And he said, "I really want to link you two up because you guys are very similar as far as, individually, like personally." And spoke to him for about 45 minutes, looked at him, and I knew he was definitely a flyweight, but he looked like a welterweight. But I knew that he was a flyweight for sure. And I figured I'd treat him as my side chick. That will keep him coming back for more and more. And and after all the years, I mean, we've had 8 fights together. He definitely is the only client that I've ever had that I can honestly say that has listened to me 100% of the time. And I wish everybody was like that, but he definitely does.
And I've been promoted to main chick throughout the process.
So how long did it take for you to get promoted to the main chick? How long was it before you guys developed that real bond that you guys have now?
What fight? You tell me what fight, because I could be horribly wrong.
Our relationship was certainly growing from day one. Obviously, like you said, when he made the debut, but we didn't meet probably until your 3rd or 4th fight.
Yeah.
We actually didn't meet in person. We had I got him to come out to Texas when I was working with Johnny Hendricks the first time when we made weight. And Shorty came out there to train with Mark De La Rosa, and we literally maybe saw each other for 2 minutes in passing because our schedules were just different. But, we would always talk, and I just found myself going to him a little bit more than I normally would as a side chick. Normally you don't really feed the side chicks too much. And
he was getting attached.
So I probably, the last 2 years, we really kind of developed a much tighter bond for sure. And, rest is kind
So,
of
so let's break down the people I was the side chick of.
yeah.
Johnny Hendricks,
Yeah.
John Jones,
Yeah.
kind of Yoel Romero,
Yeah. Andre Arlovsky. Yeah. Anthony Pettis. BJ Penn, definitely a side chick.
I was even
Shout out to BJ.
I was like
massive fan.
secretary for that.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, with BJ, I mean, he's a legend, so I kind of
that's
BJ was the main and the side, and Shorty was like,
so I was like cowboy for the other ones.
Yeah.
And then officially he stopped working with people, and I was like, oh hey, what's up, buddy? Have you been here this whole time? Have you noticed? So
that's actually true.
It worked out really, really well. And again, I do contribute everything that I've been able to do in my career in the smaller weights to him, because I did have the problem with not making the weight. That wasn't the problem. It was more of, can I make weight and perform? And I was never able to do that in college. So being a professional and doing that now, and all 4 of my flyweight fights being a knockout, I think that's, something to contribute.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that. So before we get into the fight aspect, let's talk a little bit about that weight cut that you guys had to go through. Lou, I'll start with you first. When Shorty called you, what gave you the confidence that made you feel like this was not only a manageable weight cut, but just something that was really doable, really, really possible?
It was really a combination of a few different things. He had texted me first and let me know, like, hey, you're going to laugh. I'm going to call you in a few minutes. But, the UFC kind of offered me a fight, and, I denied it. And he didn't really say too much in the text, so I was just waiting for his call. I was actually just watching some Netflix and eating some Chinese food on my couch, minding my own business. And then Shorty calls me, and he's, like, laughing because he's already made the decision to not take the fight. And I said, well, what do you weigh? And he goes, man, I'm 151. I mean, we were preparing to go for that 145 belt. And when Shorty and I first discussed that, the plan was to stay within, 5 to max 10 pounds. Usually I like my guys to be 15 to 20 pounds, above their weight class all year round. That always makes for the safest weight cut. Just not everybody does that. But he's one that always did that, which is why we were able to make weight so easy every time. And I thought about it, and he was just so adamant about not taking the fight, and we hung up, and I said, I did the math in my head. I thought about the length of time. I knew what he was eating because he was following my protocol to stay within that 150 to 155 range. And I knew that I can make some tweaks. I need to get him out here immediately, more for the mental side of things, because Shorty's, again, one of those guys that I can tell him to eat dirt and he'll do it. I mean, whatever I say, he's going to listen to me. So it was more for the mental side. Like, I needed him with me. And I just knew we could do it. And mentally, he's not like any other athlete I worked with. I just didn't know if I can convince him to do it. So I called him back like 5 minutes afterwards, and I said, Shorty, I said, is the only reason you're not taking this fight your weight? And he said, yeah, that's the only reason. Because he was in shape. I mean, he was training. And I said, well, then if that's the case, you need to take this fight. And to be honest with you, I also knew that, there's no secret. I had a couple of guys miss weight under my regime, and I took full responsibility. Never discussed the true things that went on behind closed doors. I just took responsibility for it, and I obviously took massive hits for that. So in the back of my head, I said, this kid, all he's wanted was a UFC contract, and he deserves a UFC contract. There's nobody I've ever met that deserves one more than him. And I knew in the back of my mind that if I can get him to agree to this fight and they can ink the deal, that worst case scenario, if there is an issue with the weight, well, I'll take full responsibility. People will, of course, blame me because I've already been blamed. And at least there's some hope that he'll at least be signed, and then I could kind of just delete all my social media and not have to deal with, the people that really don't know what goes on. So for me, it was really just to try to protect him, and knowing that he could do it from a mental standpoint. But it was going to suck, and I told him that, hey, we can make the weight, but it's going to suck. You just need to get out here as soon as possible, and that's what he did.
Oh, and did it suck? Yeah.
That's what my next question was. We had talked a little bit throughout the weight cut, just a couple days into it, but how bad did it get for you?
Physically, it wasn't bad. We were still drinking a gallon a day. We were still eating 4 meals a day, given they were small, but whatever the case may be, no carbs, no salt, no sugar. But I had no energy when it came to some of the workouts. So after maybe 10, 15 minutes of feeling good, it was like, oh, there it goes. Oh, goodbye, So it involved a lot of heat. And my biggest fear for me is heat, is hot tubs, saunas, all this stuff. And almost 4 hours in a day, it was pretty much all of that, repeated, where we go work out, I'm running, I'm doing the bike, elliptical, all right, cool. Now we're going to do 45 minutes in the sauna. Then we're going to do 20 minutes in the bath after and see where it goes from there. And one of the days we went to, or two of the days we went to a Russian bathhouse.
Baron Birch.
Yeah. And we stood there for, what, 5-6 hours?
Yeah, it was a long time, man.
And I remember literally staying in there. We did the Russian banya first. Then we did
steam room first.
Yeah, steam room, Russian banya. Then we did the American sauna. Then we jumped in the bath.
Hot tub.
And we're like, okay, cool. We're just going to chill in the bath. It wasn't super, super hot, but I'm already drenched. I'm already overheated. And I'm like sitting, like laying there like this, like, how long are we going to stay here for? He goes, 5 more hours. Like, damn it. And, it ended up working out really well. It wasn't taxing on the body. It was just mentally trying to stay strong and trying to stay in there. I don't know if you've ever stayed in the sauna for, 30 minutes straight, but just try doing that for, 4 hours, and at 4 or 5 hours, it really, really sucks. So given we took breaks and tried to properly rehydrate.
Dump him in the cold plunge every once in a while, get his body temperature down.
But mentally, it really did suck for me. And, a little flashbacks to college and stuff, but so be it, and I did it and I was able to push through.
So after you made weight, you yelled out, "Loutrition is back." Is that correct?
Yeah. I yelled.
What did you mean by that?
I yelled it out because, there's so much backlash in his career for so many things. And he did state that there were so many things behind closed doors that he never stated. And out of respect, I'm never going to state as well. But it's just one of those things that I'm a professional. You make the weight. I'm technically supposed to make the weight. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to blame anybody along the process. And that's sadly what some of these fighters have done is they don't say what they've done. They just go, oh, you know what? We're going to just take the heat off ourselves. We're going to blame the weight guy. And technically that's so, but what's the purpose of that? You're the professional. You're the one supposed to be, taking the heat. Look at Mackenzie Dern, look at Darren Till and all them. This I think is a proper thing to say that Loutrition is back. He was out of the career because of these guys bringing him down while I'm bringing him back.
I love it. I love that, man. So, Shorty, we had talked before the fight, and you had mentioned to me that you were feeling like Jared Brooks would make a good highlight reel for you, and he did just that, but I don't think in the capacity. Yeah, exactly. But I don't think in the capacity that you saw that happening. So tell me a little bit about that finish and how it played out for you in your mind.
Well, I can definitely tell you it didn't play out the way I expected. I did see a second round, TKO or KO. Given not in that fashion, I did see some type of highlight. But the thing was, and I do have to state this before, and this is my little excuse if you want to call it that, was I never got ready to enter the UFC cage. I had 9-day notice. I had all these tests. I had USADA. I had UFC asking for so many things, New York Athletic State Commission, 26-pound weight cut, traveling from Florida to Jersey to Utica. I had so many things to do that by the time I made the weight and got into the cage, I was like, oh my God, I'm in the UFC. Forgot I'm fighting. I completely forgot that I was going to fight Jared Brooks. And we even, sadly overlooked them to some extent to where even though we know at any time of the day, whatever the case, however the fight was going, they were going to win. It's just I mentally wasn't prepared to even go in there for any type of battle. So yeah, first round, I get beat up, I get dropped. That's almost every one of my fights, if people ever watch any of my fights, hopefully. But it's just one of those things that second round came in, and my corners didn't say anything. They weren't mad at me. They were just kind of like, hey, are you done playing around? Can you actually start punching? And I knew they were going to say something, but no one ever brought up that I got dropped or he's beating me up. They're just like, hey, keep your hand up, start working a little more and do this, do that, and you're fine. I was like, okay, all right. And then second round, I started to push the pace. I was throwing more. I was laying a little more, and there was, more action in the fight overall. And I slowly was starting to get in his head and do what I needed to do. He picked me up. I knew he was going to do something flashy because that's what he did against the Brazilian. That's all he does is something flashy because he's just a wrestler. So I go, all right, cool. Let me body lock him. Let me get ready for the good old college scramble match. And I put him in a proper position to where when I fell, I knew I was going to land on top and be in a proper position to take his back. I just didn't know he was going to knock himself out in the process.
So did Jared's performance leading up to that moment where he picks you up and kind of tries to slam you, did his performance leading up to that surprise you?
Yeah, it definitely did. I was expecting him to throw just jabs and twos every once in a while, but he was throwing combinations. He was throwing spinning stuff. One of them hit me, Chris, clear in the face or dropped me. He was throwing spinning back heel kicks. He was literally mixing it up, and I go, this is exactly what I expected from Jared Brooks in a good way, in a positive way. This is what I wanted. I didn't really expect it, but I knew that he could do something like this, that I'm the type of fighter that you're going to open up yourself a little more and try to pull out every single, trick in the bag to just do whatever. And, he did so, and he did very well because of it. I'm very happy that he was able to showcase his skills, because I believe that it's going to bring him back even stronger for whoever he fights next.
You mentioned that you kind of see yourself as the Justin Gaethje of the flyweight division. Lou, I'm kind of curious, what do you think about that? Is that something you encourage?
I'm torn, to be honest with you. I've seen all of Shorty's fights, obviously, and I've been with him, I think, for probably the last 4 fights. And what he said is so true. When he got dropped, I wish there was a camera on our corner, because none of us reacted. There was no reaction from us. It wasn't like a bunch of panic, and it was like more of, okay, like, you're awake now. And as a matter of fact, that's what I said to him in between rounds. I was listening to Master Bob give him instructions, and I was just waiting for my kind of few seconds, as I've done in every fight, to kind of just look at him and be like, are you, I obviously use some curse words, but, are you, can we wake up now? And so I'm used to seeing that. And here's the thing with Shorty is he's so tough. He's so talented. He has a lot of pride, but he also is very smart. Sometimes pride takes over. And when his pride takes over, his mentality, I don't care what you throw at me, I'm going to keep walking forward like the Terminator. And then when he does decide to fight smart and kind of move his head, his skill and his talent kind of shines. But I learned that I don't ever want to change who he is. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of why he is where he is, because of the style that he fights. My argument is always, sooner or later we're going to come across somebody that, we might not want to test their power. But at the same token, I've worked with the best, in my opinion, the best athletes in the world. And just mentally, where this kid is at is just, on a whole nother level. So I'm perfectly fine with him fighting the way that he does, because it's who he is. I view him more as like a brother, so it's kind of hard for me to watch him get hit. But I'm also very confident in his ability to recover, as he's done in every single fight. One of the funniest things was when Jarrett decided to say that he exposed Shorty the next day. He was talking a whole bunch of shit. And I'm laughing, and I'm like, well, then you clearly have never seen any of Shorty's fights, because what did you expose? The fact that he doesn't mind getting hit, the fact that maybe he gets dropped, but guess what? He keeps coming forward and does not stop. So you didn't expose anything, So that's why there really was no urgency coming from us at all.
I agree. Aside from the interesting way the finish happened, I completely agree. That's exactly what the majority of your fights kind of look like, just kind of bouncing back from adversity like that. I saw the photo of you and Jared after the fight, and you mentioned that he came up to you and said some words to you guys. Tell me a little bit about that interaction you guys have. I like your reaction already.
Yeah. Let me take this one, because, I understand that shit talking, smack talking, whatever words you want to use is part of the game. And what I found to be comical was, and another thing that Shorty and I kind of have a lot of similarities. I'm not that way either, and like I said, when I had those things happen with my other clients, man, I'm just going to keep positive and keep posting positive stuff, because there are a lot of people who do look up to me for guidance, advice, and I get a lot of messages, and Shorty does too. That's one of the things that I respect most about him is that he has so many kids looking up to him. So he doesn't talk smack. He's not going to talk smack. We talk a lot of smack to each other, because that's our relationship, And so leading up to the fight, Jarrett was obviously talking a whole bunch of stuff, and I never met Jarrett. I didn't know him. And then when I interacted with him a little bit in fight week, I said, I know exactly what it is. He doesn't think he can win this fight. He really doesn't think he can win this fight. He was banking on us not making weight, and he doesn't want to fight him, because he was trying to convince himself that he could win. And then after the fight, he literally came up to us at least 3 times. Right after the fight, we ran into him in the back. Then he came up to us again. And then at the hotel, we had a bunch of people there. We were watching the rest of the fights, eating some pizza, hanging out. And he came over with his family, taking pictures with us. And he was so respectful. Even asked Shorty for his phone number and was like, man, I need to come and train with you. There's so much I can learn from you. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I have a lot of respect for that. Like, that's cool. I don't really care what he had to say before. It's what happens afterwards. And he was like, never once did he say, you got lucky or nothing like that. And it was real respectful. And then the next day, we're getting ready to drive home, and I see his social media blowing up, and I just started laughing. Like, you're a clown, man. That's just fraudulent. You know, there's enough frauds in this industry. You know, why do you need to be like one of them? Just be your genuine self, and maybe more people will like you. And it backfired on him.
Wow. So interesting. So Shorty, what did you think about that interaction?
I mean, it was honestly extremely polite. I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's really big of you. This is really, really cool. It's something that people don't see in the background. You know, fighters getting along. It's a fight, but it's a sport where we all understand the stuff and the struggles that we have to go through, and you know, we all want to make each other better, whatever the case may be. So it was really, really honorable that he did that. And then the next day, again, I don't follow Jared Brooks, but I'm getting screenshots from like my group chats and my friends hitting me up, and they're like, "Dude, you see what he said? What do you feel about this? What do you feel about that?" I was like, "What did he say?" Because I already had my draft ready of him and I, you know, posing and hugging together and stuff like that, and I was just like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, I'm still gonna post what I post, you know. So I ended up posting that, and he ended up deleting his original post and kind of still talking smack, but like chiming it down just a little bit, you know, maybe 2 less swear words. And then he got bombarded by ESPN, SportsCenter, all these, you know, big, you know, SportsCenter posts because of the highlight of how he knocked himself out and just the way he worded it. It got a lot of backlash. I was like, oh man, that sucks. Sorry, buddy. Good luck.
Somebody definitely got in his ear and kind of convinced him that, you know, what you need to do is you need to, you know, stay relevant and talk about how you were beating Shorty and he wasn't doing anything to you and you know, all that stuff. And Sally, I think, because when he come up to us, he really was. You know, unfortunately, media and fans very rarely do they get to see who the athlete really is. Very rarely. And it's sad to say that, but it's true. Very rarely do you guys get to see the actual person, you know, and to see that from him was really kind of cool and humbling. I was even going to put a post because we all took a picture together, you know, and then when he's reading it to me, you got to remember he's, you know, I love this kid. He's like my little brother. So immediately I start getting defensive, like, don't talk shit. I'll be the one to do it, even though that's not my style. But, you know, I'm at a point in my life, forget about career-wise in my life, that if you're a fraud, man, I'm going to call you out. I'm just tired of it. You know, it's just real easy to be honest, and some people just can't be. So it was kind of comical. We had a good laugh about it.
And I really do think if he did shine the way he did when he came up to talk to us, he would have more followers because of it.
Sure.
He's not a bad fighter. I think he's a good fighter. He could be, you know, like a little badass, but he doesn't decide to do it that way. He decides to follow the Colby Covington technique. But the thing is, there's only one Colby Covington. There's only one Conor McGregor. They have their own styles, and you can't mimic that exact style because it's going to cause a lot of backlash, and that's where he's at right now. Yeah, I guess. But.
So with that win, Shorty, what's next for you, brother? I'm
honestly hoping to
Weight Watchers.
Yeah, Weight Watchers. Find a nutritionist because I'm getting chunky. I really don't know. You know, I'm trying to. I think Weight Watchers might be a thing now, but I'm trying to figure it out. You know, it's one of those things that when I fought in February, I was hoping to get the call up immediately. Never got the call, and was waiting. I was in MMA limbo for almost about 4 months, but now I'm at the point of I might get a proper call. You know, Jared Brooks found out about the fight in June with the Hector Sandoval, I believe, in March. You know, so if he's able to get it, I don't see why I can't. I believe I have a bigger name now because of it. So I'm hoping I get a 2-month, you know, time to actually start training. And think about it. You saw this fight in 9-day notice. You know, I didn't do horrible. I didn't do my best, but I didn't do horrible. But what if I have a 2-month training camp? What if I have a 10-week training camp? I'm going to prove to everyone that I am who I am. I fight the way I do, and I get knockouts because of it. So, you know, I'm ready to put on a proper show instead of a 9-day notice type of show. So for me, I know right now I'm going to go back home to Chicago, enjoy UFC 225, go to Houston, help little Bean win, and
new coming up.
Yeah, and new for King of the Cage Atomweight Championship, help her for her fight. And then after that, go down to ATT and stay there until, you know, whatever's next, but just stay ready and then be able to train with some of the best and help a lot of those guys out as well.
I love it, man. So I'm curious, what are you planning? I know you guys like to celebrate. What are you guys planning to do for celebrations? Or maybe you guys have already been celebrating. And how long are you with Lou before you go back to Chicago?
You don't see this?
How fat his face is not?
Yeah.
been non-stop.
I wish I could do one of these, like skinny to fat. But
Non-stop. This kid has been eating uncontrollably. I go in his room, wake him up, and then I see, Twinkies and all sorts of things. And then he tells me he's going for a run, trying to pretend to be healthy. And I come back, that stuff. So
yeah, it's like I go for the run, but I come back instead of drinking water, I'm drinking my chocolate milkshake type of thing. So at least I'm working out, but
pretending to be.
Yeah, it was skim milk. Yeah, but it was one of those things that we've had Jersey Freeze, we've had stuffed burgers here, we've had
home cooked
meals. I mean, we're getting literally Mexican tonight. Yeah, we're getting Mexican tonight after working out though.
Shout out to Cycle Bar in Montclair, Charlie Sage.
I've had a Diet Dr Pepper, which is a start. No, man, we've been enjoying ourselves, but it's one of those things, again, it's 9 days, 26 pounds. I definitely do believe I deserve it. And two, I do this to myself regardless, sadly. I lose my abs like 3 days out after the fight. I'm like, oh, man, I'm never losing this body. And then I fight, and then I'm like, all right, cool, let's enjoy myself. And then it's gone. So it's kind of like that South Park episode where it's like, oh, give us your money. We're going to invest this, some of that, and it's gone. It's like, what? Like it was just there. So, enjoy myself for a little bit for 2 weeks, and then go down to Houston, start training, and get myself, prepared to be an actual UFC fighter. That's something that, I really think about. And I do say again, I wasn't ready for that 9-day notice fight mentally. I want to be 100% prepared mentally and physically to say that if I do lose against one of the best in the world, whomever it is at flyweight, I want it to be a guy who's better than me. That can cook. There's no possible excuse I can have.
Lou, is that something you're also looking forward to, is watching Shorty get that full camp and working with him under the full camp as well?
Yeah, I mean, you know what it is, and a lot of people don't know this about the weight cut. Unfortunately, like I said several times, a lot of the truth never gets put out there. You might see some pictures, you might see some images. The video of Darren Till just got put out, and people are going nuts. And the video of Cyborg when she was cutting weight, hysterical crying, and people are very quick to judge and react based off of those things. With Shorty and I, again, this is our 8th fight together. Normally, we only deal with 5 pounds fight week. Like, there's zero stress when it comes to fight week and Shorty making weight. There's zero stress. And again, another thing that a lot of people don't know about Shorty, and I was blessed to get to witness it. The very first time I got to corner him and be with him for his fight was against Pedro Nobre, and he was defending his title. So I've never seen him getting ready for a fight. We talk every day and all that stuff. But I remember being in the back, and he was probably fighting in maybe 15 minutes. The guy came in the back and was like, Torres, you got 15 minutes. And I've been back there with John Jones and Anthony Pettis and all these people, and I know their routines to get ready for a fight. And I just remember turning around, and Shorty's just standing there. Like, he's literally standing there. He's not warming up. He's not shadow boxing. He's not doing anything. And I looked at him, and I'm like, shouldn't you be warming up? And he's like, no, man, I'm good. Like, I'm warm. And I remember that moment thinking, like, mentally, that to me, there's nothing better than controlled chaos, and I've preached that my entire career. From a mental standpoint, I'm a firm believer in mental nutrition. And when I saw that, I realized this kid has so much untapped potential from a mental standpoint, that if he can start tapping into it even more than he already has, sky's going to be the limit for this kid, because he's so calm mentally, and emotions are draining. And that's what happens with a lot of these athletes. They get emotionally invested. And my thing has always been detaching your emotions. And I see that he's already able to do that. So, again, fight week, there is no emotion. There is no stress. 5 pounds, and we have our system, and he's not working nearly as hard as we had to. Again, people are going to hear this story and be like, he was in the sauna for 6 hours. No, he wasn't in the sauna for 6 hours. We were there for 6 hours. He was not in the sauna for 6 hours. We would pick our spots, and then no carbs and no sugar. No, he had carbs and sugar just at specific times when I felt like mentally he was starting to be really, really drained. I would pick my spots to kind of give him these things that would kind of, wake him up mentally and enjoy it. But this entire 9 days, the only focus was weight. We're not used to that together, and for me, physically, I knew we could make it as far as hydration, as far as body fat, as far as all those things. My biggest concern was him mentally, because Shorty is the type of person that likes to complain. He just likes to be complaining, and he likes to be coddled, and I am used to that. because I kind of like smack him around because it's just like, bro, you got 2 pounds. Oh, it's the weight cut. You just drank a gallon of water and ate 3 meals. Like, you're not cutting weight. There are guys who don't eat for 3 days. So we have fun with it, when he complains. He didn't complain at all this week, which was alarming to me, really. I could just tell that mentally he was in a different place, and that concerned me. It concerned me from, I wasn't worried about his performance. Once I knew we could hydrate, mentally then he'll start to kind of enjoy it. But, mentally he was just kind of so focused on this that now that we have it behind us, and now that he's already made weight and we did that, dramatic cut and he performed and won, now you'll get to really see kind of the true, Shorty Torres when he fights, because weight's not an issue. It's never been and it'll never be, especially with him, because he listens. He's the only guy that I know that could cut weight and be thirsty and be hungry and being in the hotel room by himself with cases of body armor, cases of regular water, pineapple, watermelon. I mean, all his rehydration stuff I purposely kept in his room. And I do that for a reason, because it teaches him really mental toughness that, if I don't break, then nothing's going to break me. And unfortunately, a lot of people do break, and he's just not one of them.
It was horrible. They had a fridge, but no, let's use mine for all the goods.
No, I got mind control over him. Evo,
Yeah, I love that. Mind control.
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of, let's give him 8-9 weeks to prepare for an opponent. His weight will be managed properly. And again, the other funny thing was, I started to freak out after like the first day that we were there, because I didn't realize it was the lighting. His skin looked so yellow that it was so concerning that I started freaking out. I'm like, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it, but I can't put him through. And then him and I are in the check his weight, and he's leaning against the wall, just being dramatic every day. So yeah, it wasn't that dramatic. And I'm looking at him, and his skin looks fine. And I realized it's the lighting. Like, the lighting was just some old school yellow lighting. So it gave me a heart attack. I lost 10 pounds. So I actually cut more weight than he did fight week. He only I cut 10.
That is
and,
a fact.
that is a fact. And so, yeah, man, when you see him with a full camp, again, weight's not an issue. We do about 5 pounds for fight week, and it just comes off super easy. He'll be able to be excited and focus on, oh man, I'm getting my pictures taken for the UFC.
Yeah, I can worry about the fight instead of actually worrying about weight and going, oh yeah, it's tough to fight.
Mm-hmm. Guys, congratulations are certainly in order. You've accomplished a lot this past week. Shorty, I know is a long anticipated deal for you, waiting to get in the UFC, but it all worked out in the end, right?
Yeah, it definitely all worked out in the end. I was honestly going to think like, oh, I'm going to regret this. I'm going to take the fight, not make weight, or I'm going to take the fight, make weight, not going to feel good. And then overall, everything worked out as planned. Given the highlight reel wasn't the highlight reel I expected, but when you get 1.1 million views in SportsCenter and ESPN, all these other things, I'm not going to and get my hand raised at the end of it, I'm not going to complain. So I'm very, very happy for it.
Well, guys, I appreciate the time. It's been a pleasure catching up with you guys. Congratulations again on the victory, and we can't wait to see what's next for Team Shorty.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.